Hi. Jose Manuel Zelaya Rosales, the president of Honduras, was recently removed from office in what some people are referring to as a military coup. It was nothing of the kind. Supposedly, it all has to do with this one little poll that the president was going to have. Just one little poll over whether or not to install a fourth ballot box in the election on whether or not people wanted to convene a National Constituent Assembly. Doesn't sound so bad. There were a lot, and I mean a lot, of people in government and elsewhere who were really frightened of this threatened Constituent Assembly. It could, probably would, have gone about altering the Constitution of Honduras and would have threatened certain entrenched articles of the Honduran Constitution, which, according to the Constitution, cannot be altered in any way, such as Article 239, which forbids presidents from seeking any sort of re-election at all, ever. In fact, the Attorney General informed President Zelaya that even talking about having such a constituent assembly could be regarded as a criminal offense. But Zelaya ignored him. Okay, you can do that. You're president. You're allowed to ignore your attorney general if you want. But if you do, there will be consequences. But the thing is, Zelaya didn't just ignore his attorney general. The poll was illegal. A Honduran lower court ruled that the poll was illegal. The Supreme Electoral Tribunal ruled that the court was illegal. The Supreme Court ruled that the poll was illegal. The Honduran Congress and the Attorney General ruled that the poll was illegal. Zelaya, the executive, openly defied the electoral and judicial branches of government. This is not democracy. This is not how people act in a democracy. This is how people act in a fascist government, or a communist government, or an absolute monarchy. Okay? By his actions, Zelaya directly threatened the democracy of the nation of Honduras. If he had succeeded in this action, the judiciary and the elected constituency would have been rendered powerless to resist the executive. The word for this is dictatorship. Okay, what the government did when they removed Zelaya was somewhat like what would have happened if the German parliament had ordered the Reichswehr to remove Adolf Hitler in 1931. I want to make absolutely clear that this is no small thing we're talking about here. I think it should be noted that in the history of these Latin American countries, when presidents go about altering the Constitution, it is almost without exception to prolong their stay in office, like Hugo Chavez. Before he was elected, the president of Venezuela were limited to one 5-year term. He got elected, and one of the first things he did was mess around with the Constitution, and look, first thing he did, he prolonged his maximum stay in office to 12 years. Okay, when FDR was in office for 12 years, people were scared. And that was FDR. We're talking about a guy who is widely regarded as a communist. It should be noted, I also think, that Zelaya is regarded by many people in Honduras as a stooge for Hugo Chavez. In fact, when the so-called military coup took place, there were a large number of people, I mean, tens of thousands of people, who demonstrated in favor of it, saying that they were not in favor of communism, which is what they were worried Zelaya was about to bring about. It was not something that was done by powerful people in government. This was something that was very widespread. People felt very strongly about this. So, to cut it short, I believe thinking some people in the Honduran government may run something like this. If it looks like a duck and acts like a duck, then let's get the bugger out of office before he turns the place into a communist dictatorship. That's the whole point of separation of powers. This is how democracy works. You got the three branches of government. You got the executive, the judiciary, and elected constituency, in this case the Congress, and the three all pull against each other to try to keep the government in some sort of balance, so that hopefully no one part of government is ever powerful enough to threaten the democracy. It's a fact. Governments. Anyway, the executive, Zelaya, openly threatened the ability of the judiciary and the elected constituency, Congress, to maintain their proper role in government. Another important point that some people seem not to have gotten, this was no sudden thing. Zelaya was threatened. Zelaya was planning to do this illegal pull for a long time. And he was told many times that it was illegal by many different people, by the courts, by Congress, by members of his own party. Zelaya represented a clear and present danger to the democracy of the nation of Honduras. So when it became clear that no nonviolent means would stop him, the judiciary, another important point, it was the judiciary, not some political party that controlled the military, not some golden square military officers, not some junta of powerful individuals. It was the Supreme Court, the highest law of the land, ordered the military to remove the president from office, which they did. The president of Congress, a member of Zelaya's own party, was elected by Congress as acting president until the next election, in complete accordance with Honduran constitutional succession. The whole thing was entirely legal, entirely democratic. This was not a military coup. This is a perfect example of how resilient a democracy can be when people are willing to do what they have to do to protect the democracy. That's what I got to say.